Man in the front there, you.
Speaking as someone who's studying history and listening to George Galloway, I'm reminded of the Allied politicians after World War I who failed to act against Hitler because of the scars they had borne in World War I. At the end of the day, if Iran merits intervention, then we must act.
Have you got your tin hat? Are you ready to go?
Are
you ready to go?
If the call goes out...
You want other people's sons to be killed?
If the call goes out and asks me to go and fight for my country, I will, because I love my country and I'm going to fight for it.
Me too, but I don't want to fight for George W. Bush's country.
Okay.
Wanted to talk about more contemporary issues like the soldier who was killed yesterday.
Let's talk about let's address the side of the same point. Many people have been asking us the same thing.
Well, that's because you have deliberately teed up this interview with a falsehood.
We do not tee up the questions.
You're a bunch of liars, and everybody knows that you are.
Mr. Galloway,
you're a bunch of liars. I am not an admirer of Saddam Hussein. I was an opponent of Saddam Hussein when you'd never heard of him. I used to be demonstrating outside the Iraqi embassy in London when British governments and businessmen were selling him guns. I have answered this question 500 times at least. So let's go on and answer some of your other questions.
We've got many of them are, well, I just don't know where to start. They're all much the same.
Well, no wonder they are, because you've set this whole thing up.
No, we've not set it up.
There are millions of people. There are millions. No, you aren't. You've been trailing this program of me as an admirer of Saddam Hussein, which I'm not. You've put on a voter from Scotland where we're not standing, where we don't exist, to attack me. And now you're telling me you've got a shoal of hostile questions. There are millions of people. Millions of people support our stand on the war on Iraq and our stand on railways and on many other issues. And you're going to get a surprise on Thursday when you see the result in the constituency in which I'm standing. But you won't be talking to me after it. Let me assure you of that.
Well, we're joined now from his count in Bethnal Green and Bow by George Galloway. Mr. Galloway, are you proud of having got rid of one of the very few black women in Parliament?
What a preposterous question. I know it's very late in the night, but wouldn't you be better by starting by congratulating me for one of the most sensational election results in modern history?
Are you proud of having got rid of one of the very few black women in Parliament?
I'm not. Jeremy, move on to your next question.
Well, you're not answering that one.
No, because I don't believe that people get elected because of the colour of their skin. I believe people get elected because of their record and because of their policies. So move on to your next question.
Are you
because
proud?
I've got a lot of people who want to speak to me.
If
you ask that question again, I'm going. I warn you now.
Don't try and threaten me, Mr. Galloway, please.
You're the one who's trying to badger me.
I'm not trying to badger you. I'm merely asking you whether you're proud of having driven out of Parliament one of the very few black women there, a woman you accused of having on her conscience the deaths of 100,000 people.
Oh, well, there's no doubt about that one. There's absolutely no doubt that all those new Labour MPs who voted for Mr. Blair and Mr. Bush's war have on their hands the blood of 100,000 people in Iraq, many of them British soldiers, many of them American soldiers, most of them Iraqis, and that's a more important issue than the colour of her skin.
Yes, because you then went on to say, including a lot of women who had blacker faces than her.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. So don't try and tell me that I should feel guilty about one of the most sensational election results in modern electoral history because the person I defeated
Mr. Galloway, that
is a
Nick
woman
Rainsford had you to a T when he said you were a demagogue.
I'm sorry?
Nick Rainsford. You know who I mean? Nick Rainsford, Labour MP?
No,
you've never heard of him?
I've never heard of Nick Rainsford, no.
What else haven't you heard of?
Well, I've been in Parliament a long time.
He was a parliamentary colleague of yours until very recently.
Most of them just blend one into the other, Jeremy. They're largely a spineless, supine bunch.
Have you ever heard of Tony Banks?
Yes, I have, yes.
Right, Tony Banks was sitting here 5 minutes ago, and he said that you were behaving inexcusably. You had deliberately chosen to go to that part of London and to exploit the latent racial tensions there.
But you are actually conducting one of the, even by your standards, one of the most absurd interviews I have ever participated in. I have just won an election. Can you find it within yourself to recognise that fact, to recognise the fact that the people of Bethnal Green and Bow chose me this evening.
Oh, we recognise it.
Why are you insulting them?
I'm not insulting them.
Yes,
I'm not insulting you.
You are insulting them. They chose me just a few minutes ago. Can't you find it within yourself even to congratulate me on this victory?
Congratulations, Mr. Galloway.
Thank you very much indeed.
How do you propose to use your time in...
They say, the leader of Iran says he wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth.
He didn't say that, and you know very well he didn't say that. He said he wanted Zionism to be wiped off the page of history, just like he said Nazism and communism. When you wanted to wipe out communism, you didn't want to wipe out Russia. You didn't want to wipe out the Russian people. This was a political statement. Well, George, it's all right in the news of the world, but this is the Oxford Union, Francis. George, have a bit of intellectual rigour.
George, okay. Your record of
The Iranians strongly support the development of nuclear weapons. No. What was being said on my right?
It's nuclear power. It's nuclear power. Stop conflating nuclear power with nuclear weapons. Iran doesn't have any nuclear weapons. And the IAEA says there's no evidence they're building them.
How do you justify your support for Hezbollah and its leader, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah?
A preposterous way to introduce an item, and what a preposterous first question. Israel is invading Lebanon and has killed 30 times more Lebanese civilians than have died in Israel. So it's you who should be justifying the evident bias which is written on every line on your face and is in every nuance of your voice and is loaded in every question that you ask.
Right. Can I ask you about a report that's in today's Sunday Telegraph, which showed that Iran has given Hezbollah long-range missiles capable of targeting any part of Israel. Can you blame Israel for wanting to destroy those missiles?
But this is preposterous. America has given Israel missiles that can target not just every city in Lebanon, but every city in the Arab and Muslim world, including Iran. Why should America be allowed to give long-range missiles to Israel, including hundreds of nuclear missiles, but Iran
because it's given it to a terrorist organisation.
But they're not a terrorist organisation. Only in the mind of Rupert Murdoch's Sky and the Times and the Sun and the News of the World.
I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Galloway.
Anna, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. You are totally wrong in saying that in most people's eyes, Hezbollah are terrorists. In most people's eyes, Israel is a terrorist state. It's the fact that you cannot comprehend that fact that leads to the bias which runs through all of your reporting and every question that you've asked me in this interview.
Well, as usual, you have prompted a huge email response both for and against you, Mr. Galloway, so we'll leave it there. I have to say that some people might find it offensive when more families are mourning their dead to hear you say that it was a bloody good hiding. So
you don't give a damn. You don't even know about the Palestinian families. You don't even know that they exist. Tell me the name of one member of the 7 members of the same family slaughtered on the beach in Gaza by an Israeli warship. You don't even know their name, but you know the name of every Israeli soldier who's been taken prisoner in this conflict, because you believe, whether you know it or not, that Israeli blood is more valuable than the blood of Lebanese or Palestinians. That's the truth, and the discerning of your viewers already know it. That time, I gave my heart and soul to stop you committing the disaster that you did commit in invading Iraq. And I told the world that your case for the war was a pack of lies. Senator, in everything I said about Iraq, I turned out to be right and you turned out to be wrong. And 100,000 people have paid with their lives. Have a look at the real scandal breaking in the newspapers today, revealed in the earlier testimony in this committee, that the biggest sanctions busters were not me or Russian politicians or French politicians. The real sanctions busters were your own companies with the connivance of your own government.